Hello and welcome to Kaely Daily. Today's question is, how common is tearing during childbirth?
This is Kaely Daily, the bi-weekly podcast about all things doula tips and tits, where we answer one question about pregnancy, labor, postpartum, or lactation in order to have your journey in this parenting world be just a little bit more informed and filled with consent.
Hello and welcome back. My name is Kaely Harrod. I am your host of this beautiful podcast. And today we are talking about how common tearing is in the midst of childbirth. Now, I know that this is not a super lovely topic because we're talking about your tissues in a very sensitive area. So I do have a warning about that. I would just like for you to be aware that is what we're going to discuss. And if you feel up to it, then keep listening. I am Kaely Harrod, and I am a doula. I'm a birth doula, postpartum doula, childbirth educator, a mom, and I am really passionate about informed consent. So I have a class that I created called the Birth Prep Blueprint. That is the host of this beautiful podcast. And this podcast was in part to get some questions answered that I hear all the time. And so I go through lots of questions, and I would love to hear questions that you have and add those to my list. So today's question, how common is it to tear during childbirth? Now, obviously this is talking about vaginal childbirth, okay? And the rates are a little bit different if you have ever given birth before. So someone who has not given birth before, so this is their first time giving birth, 9 out of 10 of those birthing people are going to have some form of tearing. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to need stitches, right? It doesn't always require that. But that's the prevalence of tearing when you have not given birth before. Your tissues haven't stretched in this way. And so that's how common it is. It is significantly less common if you have given birth before. So that's good news, right? If you're planning to have more than one child, if you can and want more than one child. One thing that I think is helpful to know about this is how the actual tissues work in that area. So, we know, well, maybe hopefully you know that your tissues expand to let the baby through, right? In that process, they sort of get expanded to the maximum when the baby is crowning, and then they can right away start to come back down. Now, they don't, of course, it takes some days for things, some weeks, let's be real, for things to really come back to kind of its more natural size, etc. But if there are some small tears, sometimes they just close up on their own immediately after birth. So that means they're not actively bleeding, and the tissues are closed up in a way that means they're going to heal really nicely. That depends, of course, how deep that tear is, where the location is, all of those different factors. Tear severity is another topic that we'll dive into in another episode. But today I wanted to just talk about how common it is. Now, another thing I think that's important to know is that all of your birth canal, so all of your vaginal canal, is expanding in the midst of birth, right? That means there are rug burn sort of tearing that happens all throughout the vaginal canal, and sometimes on the labia or near the clitoris and places like that. Those might be painful when you're urinating after birth. So sometimes after labor, it's painful to pee because when you pee, you get that more acidic urine into those areas. So if you're giving birth at a hospital, they will send you home with something called a peri bottle, where you use it to spray water on yourself while you pee at the same time. So you're diluting everything. If you're giving birth at home or you're having a birth center birth, that should be on the list of things for you to have for yourself ready after the birth so that you can do that same thing. Everyone has some sort of something in terms of like micro tears or something, in my experience, in part because of pushing an enormous baby out, right? That's part of that process. It doesn't mean that everyone has or needs stitches. Okay. So that's today's short and sweet question. We're going to start diving into some postpartum questions soon. So if you have postpartum questions, send them my way. I am easiest to get a hold of over on Instagram via DMs. But I would love to hear from you. Love to hear your questions so that I can add them to the list of things that are getting answered. And we do have another special guest coming up, which I'm super pumped for. And hopefully we'll have more in the fall as well. So, all right, until I see you or talk to you all again, I hope you have the most consent-filled, well-informed births.
These episodes are edited and produced by Kaely, Harrod, as I'm sure you can probably tell. And our amazing music is credited in the show notes as well. So we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. And in the meantime, have wonderful and consent-filled births.